Fate tested his trust in the world and the people around him. Failed. Relying on himself and studying magic every day, he went towards his goal, revenge for his loved ones. What takes others years to study, he masters in a glance. Every spell he sees, every rune he touches, becomes his own. The only question remains open. Visions from the future? Will they become real? Will his brilliance make him an arbiter of justice or a threat? Let's find out. The story begins outside the Dongbin orphanage, late at night. An old woman came to the gate of the orphanage with her child and knocked to get attention. An employee came outside and asked with a displeased look who it could be at this hour. He approached them, asked them to leave, and said that there were already too many people here. He could not accept any more. She apologized and said that they really had nowhere to go. She held out a brooch and asked if he could please understand their situation. He took it and said that they should follow him. The boy held her hand and they walked there together. He led them into a small room and said that since it was already late at night, he would explain the rules of the orphanage and the fees tomorrow. With that, he left. She bowed and thanked him for that. When he left and closed the door, she asked the child to sit on the bed and said that it must have been really hard for him. He looked at her with a worried expression and asked what was wrong with his mom and dad. She started to get nervous about this question and said that he should get some sleep and they would come. She asked him to try to get some rest. He agreed and went to bed, and she sat next to him on a chair. She started coughing up blood. Her body was shaking, and she said that she hoped that he would be happy. Because of illness, she fell on the bed. The child noticed this, sat up and asked Helen, "Did she fall asleep?" He was very surprised when he noticed her blood on his hand and started shaking because of fear. He started pushing her, trying to wake her up, and called her name loudly. The next morning, the worker who let them in came into this room with an unfamiliar girl. He clicked his tongue in displeasure and asked why she died here and brought so many problems. This is total bad luck. She sighed and asked what should they do with this child? Since his hair color is similar to Pauline's, let him go with that girl. They will look like a pathetic mother and son, right? They noticed her and said that she was just in time. From today on, she has to take him with her to work. She agreed to it. They left, and he said that they were not a volunteer organization anyway. Since they were a couple now, he would make money from them. Dongbin Orphanage is, at first glance, a royal charity that takes care of people who have nowhere to go and receive subsidies. In fact, they exploit children under the guise of fees for services to make a profit. It is a vicious place. Pauline walked up to him, greeted him, and asked what his name was. She told him her name and said that from now on, he would be with her. He sat silently with a sad expression on his face, and she understood how he felt. She sat down next to him and said that she did not know what exactly he had to go through, but she could tell one thing for sure. He must survive no matter what. If he does, he will eventually have a chance to find happiness. She extended her hand to him and asked if he was ready to go. Rowan took her hand and agreed. After that, he started begging in the arms of his mother Pauline. Even if their relationship as mother and son was only for begging, she always took care of him. She protected him from the bullying of other children and the treats of vagrants. She was always there for him, and he was never alone. 5 years later, she was sitting on a bench looking sad, and he called her and waved his hand. She said that he worked hard so he should sit down. He sat down next to her and said that she had worked hard too. He put the jar on the bench next to him and said that he had heard that morning that she would be leaving soon. She agreed and said that she had heard that she would be working as a maid in some noble mansion. Unexpectedly for her, he said with a happy look that it was such a relief. If it was her, then everything would be all right with her everywhere. She started stroking his head and asked with a smile what he was saying. He shouldn't worry about her and should think better of himself. He laughed and said that it was because of that her hair got tangled. He thanked her for the last 5 years and said that when Helen left, he felt like he had lost everything. When the children made fun of him, and even when the tramps started fighting with him, she had always been there for him and protected him. He started crying and said that he was glad that she was going to a good place because he was grateful to her. He should congratulate her with all his heart. His parents, Helen, and now she too, were all leaving. Pauline turned him to face her and said that he should look at her. If there was no one next to him now, it didn't mean that he was lonely. A person was only truly lonely when his heart was empty. If he holds on to those who have passed away and quietly looks inside himself, he will be able to see how much everyone cherishes and loves him. So whenever he feels lonely, he should close his eyes and feel his heart. She will always be with him. After a while, at night, the protagonist went outside and thought that Pauline, who was always with him, had left. Wasn't he told to look into his heart when he didn't want to feel lonely? So that he could feel the presence of those dear to him, he was told to open the eyes of his heart. An energy took over his body. He began to see the world differently, and thought that even with his eyes closed, he could see the world. It was so beautiful. He could feel everything. His parents, Helen, Pauline, he really wasn't alone. He thanked her, started to cry, and thought that he would never forget her for the rest of his days. After a while, the manager of the orphanage said that they should all wake up. It was time to work. He stood by the window while everyone else was working and thought that a year had passed since she left. Maybe she's still getting used to her new job, since he hasn't heard from her since that day. I wonder how she's doing now. Since then, he's been working alone like the other kids. The principal assigned him to District 1, which brings in the most money. He's treated relatively well because he makes more than most. The guy walked up to him, called him by name, and said that he should make good money today too. He doesn't have to worry about bad guys with him around. MC looked at him and thought that this man Blake was the chief of District 1. He started treating him well after learning about his past one day. He also helped him realize that the light clusters he saw were mana. He agreed with a small smile and said that he was counting on him today too. He thought that there was a condensed light around his body. Later he found out that he was a swordsman who could use mana. However, his mana had a strange, cloudy glow. Mana is the source that everything in this world is made of. Every person inhales mana through their breath and exhales it again, unconsciously interfering with the flow of the world. After a while, he was sitting on the street with a jar where people were throwing money, looked up and thought that it was beautiful. Blake and some of the others can use mana in a special way through training called mana cultivation. He told him not to be interested in it because it is dangerous if used incorrectly, but he can already see. He didn't get to finish his thought because a few coins were thrown at him. He raised his head with a kind smile, thanked the teacher, and said that her heart was very beautiful. The girls were happy with such a compliment and passed by. He remained sitting in the same place and thought that he should start to get used to seeing physical forms and mana at the same time. Until recently, it was difficult for him to see both entities at the same time, but now he seemed to have gotten used to it a little. It is dizzying when physical forms and mana overlap each other. Blake came to him, looked at the money in his bank and asked, "Did he collect so much in such a short time?" Rowan said with a smile that it was all thanks to kind people. He said that this is why he needs to be more careful. There are a lot of people in this world who can't stand it when others succeed. He started to stand up and said that if he saw any suspicious guys or anything strange, he should immediately report it to him. He said goodbye to him, and he remained sitting in his place, agreed and said, "See you later." He thought that it was probably better not to talk about it. Actually, he had seen something strange in the past couple of days. Among the crowd of people, there were strangers with unusually dense and bright mana. It seemed like they had the same condensed mana in their bodies as he did. He peeked around the corner and thought that the two people had very bright colors. They watched him from the crowd, and then quickly disappeared, jumping over the buildings. He didn't feel particularly threatened, and he doesn't know what will happen if people find out he can see mana, so he keeps it to himself for now. The man threw a coin into his jar. He thanked him and wished him a good day. He looked down and thought the jar was almost full. He should ask for a new jar at camp. He went to the alley, saw a person on the roof, and thought that, judging by the color of the mana, it was them. They were chasing him. But what was their goal? They hadn't acted so openly before. One behind him, the other on the side. He hoped that they would let him get to the camp faster without any trouble. He started running, and thought that if Blake were here, he would have met him now. He was worried about this. Ran out to another street. He noticed the worried protagonist and called out his name loudly. He ran up to him very quickly, picked him up, and told him that he should hold on tight. He jumped onto the roof, started running, noticed people running after them, and said that those people were already here. They needed to go to the shelter. He should be careful and not drop the jar of money, otherwise he wouldn't be able to eat. He called out his name, but noticed that he wasn't responding and wondered what was wrong with him. After a while, they returned to the orphanage and Blake said that he should go first. It was a safety issue, so all the other kids would be coming back too, and he should rest for now. He hit him on the head with his finger and asked why he was frozen. This kid was scared to death from the start. They wouldn't be able to come here, so he should pull himself together and go inside. He agreed and said that he would be on guard. He entered the room, and with a surprised expression on his face, he thought that he saw how mana circulated when the body moved, how thick mana pulsated when concentrating power in the arms and legs, how mana exploded and disappeared when jumping from rooftops. He needed to try to repeat this. He had to inhale mana and then circulate it, concentrate it in the body, and use it when needed. After that, he sighed and said that now he clearly understood how to use mana. After a while, MC looked at his hand with a happy look and thought that he wanted to try this soon. Two people walked into the room, confused about what was going on. The boy said he didn't know what was going on, but they said everyone from the other dorms had come back too. A young man entered the room and knocked on the door to get their attention, telling them they had to be quiet. He was sure they were all wondering why they were suddenly called back at this hour. There was nothing to worry about though, so they didn't have to worry. After the person in charge checked each area, they would be sent to work. They didn't know when that would happen, so they all had to wait in their dorms without making any noise. He called Rowan and said with a serious expression that he had to pack his things and that he was being transferred. After that, he packed a small bag of his things, and the dorm owner told him he had to wait there for a minute. He walked over to the other man, handed him a small folder, and they started discussing something. He watched them from the side and wondered what they were talking about. They were so far away that he couldn't hear them. He started circulating mana in his body and thought that if he focused on his ears. He heard a man ask if the child beggar was being transferred from the dorm to the main building. The dorm owner said that was exactly it. The director prefers him because of his looks. They want to keep him safe. There was also an incident in the first area today. He asked if it was at the Union, right? He agreed and said that there were 2 runners there. He remembered what happened to him earlier and wondered if they were talking about those people. The man called him and said that he should follow him. After a while, they reached the right building and went up to the 2nd floor where he knocked on the door. He took the protagonist into an office and called out,